She was the princess who feared only one thing: death. Legends say she made a secret pact to live forever. But when the sun rose on her 1,000th birthday, something unimaginable happened. The kingdom changed, the skies darkened, and the price of her wish revealed itself, a price no one could ever escape. She was the princess who would do anything to live forever. Whispers of forbidden magic, a deal sealed in blood, and a kingdom that unknowingly paid the price. For centuries she stayed young, beautiful, untouchable. But when the clock struck midnight on her 1,000th birthday, something happened that no spell could undo, something that left the world in shock. Ladies and gentlemen, lay down and don't forget to subscribe my channel for more interesting videos. Thank you. As she grew into a woman, her beauty became the pride of the realm. Songs were written about her, paintings hung in far-off kingdoms. But beneath her golden crown, her heart trembled with terror. Every passing day, every falling leaf reminded her of the one thing she could never truly control: time. On her 21st birthday, Immortality summoned the kingdom's most forbidden being, the Weaver of Fates, a shadowy figure who lived beyond the veil of stars. It was said that the Weaver could bend destiny itself, but only for a cost no mortal would dare pay. Immortality dared. "I want to live forever," she whispered in the darkened hall, alone save for the shifting figure before her. The Weaver smiled, a slow, ancient thing. "You may," it said, "but know this. To live beyond your time is to watch everything you love decay. Are you willing to pay the price?" Without hesitation, Immortality offered everything: her soul, her lineage, her very right to love. The deal was struck. From that night on, her body ceased to age. Wounds healed instantly. Illness slid off her skin like morning dew. She was eternal. Decades passed, then centuries. Her parents withered and died. Her childhood friends faded into dust. Kings rose and fell. Wars burned across the land. Immortality remained, untouched by time, untouched by sorrow. The people began to worship her as a living goddess. Pilgrimages were made to glimpse the ever-queen. Poems spoke of her endless beauty. Statues were erected in every city. Immortality ruled wisely, calmly, with a strange and eerie patience that no mortal could rival. But on the eve of her 1,000th birthday, when the bells rang louder than ever before, the skies began to tremble. Cracks appeared in the marble floors of her palace. A bitter wind howled through the crystal halls, and somewhere in the distance, the Weaver laughed. What Immortality had not understood was that immortality was never a gift. It was a curse. And the price she had agreed to was about to come due, in a way she could have never imagined. As the celebrations for Immortality's 1,000th year roared into the night, with golden feasts, flame dancers, and choirs so loud they shook the mountains, a shadow began creeping over the kingdom. It started at the edges of the villages. Crops withered in the soil. Animals grew restless and silent. Children fell into deep, unnatural sleeps and did not wake. The rivers slowed, thickened, and turned black. The palace priests were the first to sense it, a rupture in the natural order, as if the very heartbeat of the world had faltered. At the stroke of midnight, Immortality stood on the grand balcony before her people, radiant in a gown of white fire. Thousands gazed up at her, chanting her name. She raised her arms to bless them, and then the stars went out. One by one, the constellations winked into darkness until only a single star remained, a blood-red tear in the sky. The earth cracked open with a thunderous roar. From the depths of that rift, the Weaver of Fates emerged, no longer a shadow but a vast nightmarish form, covered in endless eyes and mouths that whispered forgotten truths. The deal, it declared, was incomplete. Immortality had asked to live forever, but forever was never meant for the flesh. The land itself would now bear the cost of her greed. One by one, her people, those who had worshipped her, loved her, trusted her, began to age rapidly before her eyes. Children became elderly in seconds. Strong warriors crumbled into ash. The very walls of her city turned to dust. Amariel screamed, not in fear for herself, but in horror at the suffering she had caused. She begged, pleaded, offered everything she had left, but the weaver only watched, 1,000 mouths smiling. "You asked to be alive forever," it whispered, "but you never asked for anyone else to survive with you." In a final act of desperation, Amariel tried to undo the spell, to give back her immortality, to trade herself for her people. But it was too late. The magic was woven into the bones of the world now. By dawn, the kingdom was gone. Only Amariel remained, standing alone amid ruins, untouched by time, untouched by death, untouched by time, untouched by death, but surrounded by silence. Amariel stood amidst the ashes of her once glorious kingdom, her golden gown fluttering in a wind that carried only dust. The silence was deafening, not the peaceful quiet of a sleeping world, but the hollow stillness of absolute loss. The ruins around her whispered of betrayal, not by others, but by herself. She had won her immortality, yes, but what was life without voices, without laughter, without love? What was a queen without a kingdom? For the first time in 1,000 years, Amariel realized that her greatest fear had never been death. It had been being forgotten, and now she would live eternally as a memory no one remained to hold. At first she screamed, a sound so raw and broken that it cracked the sky. Then she wept until the tears etched small rivers into the barren ground. But no gods came to her. No forgiveness rained from the heavens. Only the endless, brutal passing of days, one after another. And yet, in her endless wandering, a thought began to grow inside her, small and fragile as a seed trapped in a desert. Maybe, just maybe, she could still find a way to undo the wrong she had caused. Maybe her curse could be more than punishment. Maybe it could be a path to redemption. And so began the Ever Queen's second journey, not toward more life, but toward meaning. For centuries after the fall of her kingdom, Amariel wandered the shattered world, a ghost among ruins. The lands once lush and vibrant had become hollow deserts. Forests where songs once echoed now stood as graveyards of blackened trees. Cities she had built and loved were nothing more than crumbling stones swallowed by sand. At first, she tried to rebuild. She gathered the few survivors she could find, broken, starving souls, and offered them shelter. But her presence cursed the soil wherever she stood. Crops refused to grow. Water curdled in wells. Animals fled in terror. The weaver's punishment was cruelly precise. Wherever Amariel set foot, life itself withdrew. "Your immortality is a wound on the world," an old prophet told her once, before crumbling into dust in her arms. "It is not your life you preserved. It is your curse you sealed." And so, realizing she could not restore life with her own hands, Amariel turned instead to ancient knowledge. She sought the forbidden temples beyond the western seas, climbed mountains that pierced the heavens, and dove into labyrinthine catacombs where even light dared not follow. She battled beasts born of forgotten nightmares, bargained with spirits who lived between breaths, and read scrolls written in the blood of the stars. She learned there was one way, only one, to undo the weaver's curse. But it was a path few dared to whisper, even in the darkest dreams. She would have to journey to the heart of the end, the birthplace of existence itself, and plead before the first flame, the living essence of creation. It was said that the first flame could rewrite any fate, even hers. But reaching it meant crossing the Vale of Sorrows, a place no mortal soul had ever returned from. The road was longer than any she had walked before, across endless plains of bones and through rivers of molten glass she traveled. She was attacked by the revenants, spirits of those who had perished under her rule, each one screaming her name, blaming her for their endless pain. But Imariel no longer fought back with sword or spell. She bowed her head to each blow, took every wound, bore every cry. She carried their sorrow within her, every step heavier than the last. And in doing so, something remarkable began to happen. For the first time since the Weaver cursed her, the world around Imariel changed. Where she bled, flowers bloomed. Where her tears fell, streams of pure water emerged. In her suffering, she had unknowingly begun to heal the land she had destroyed. The Weaver, sensing its hold weakening, appeared again, this time in the form of a child with empty black eyes. "Turn back," it hissed, "or lose everything you have left, even the memory of who you are." But Imariel only smiled, a sad, gentle thing. "I have already lost everything. All that remains is what I must give." She pressed on. At last, standing before a chasm of blinding light and endless darkness, the heart of the end, Imariel knelt. She did not beg for her immortality to end. She did not ask for her kingdom to be restored. She simply asked for forgiveness, not for herself, but for the world she had scarred. And the first flame, moved by her humility, answered. In a final searing moment of unbearable light, Imariel's body dissolved into a million shimmering motes. She became part of the very breath of the earth, the pulse of the rivers, the whisper of the forests. She was no longer immortal. She was no longer cursed. She was life itself, reborn, scattered, and free. And in the ruins of her fallen kingdom,